You're entering Corsi Nation.
This is Dr. Jerome Corsi. Today it's Monday. It's June 16th, 2025. Thanks for joining us on CorsiNation.com. You can follow us on X at CorsiJerome1 and on Substack at JeromeCorsiPhD.substack.com. We've got a lot of subjects to cover today. We've got two wars now going on, one in the Middle East with Iran and Israel. Israel is still attacking in Gaza, and Israel has really kind of neutralized Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Houthi rebels in Yemen. But it's a regional war, and the real battle is going to be between Iran and Israel, which is kind of a final battle here. If we're not in the end days, I don't know what is. This is certainly looks like end days type material going on all over the world. Now, I want to cover several stories. Let's do the Iran right now. Iran had missile attacks all weekend on Israel, and a number of the missiles got through. Now, not very many, but it doesn't take very many to cause a lot of damage. So there were 8 Israelis killed, only 8. I mean, they probably sent over 250 missiles at Israel over the weekend. And I don't know how many they have. I'm sure one of the things that Israel is trying to do is to neutralize Iran's ability to launch missiles, both by attacking the missile sites and to do what they can to destroy the missiles before they can be launched. But it's going to continue, and Israel is going to, now that Iran has had missile strikes on civilian areas, Iran has no real ability to target these missiles. They're just firing them and heading them towards Tel Aviv, and wherever they land, they land. And this Iron Dome has done a great deal to intercept the missiles before they hit, but it can't be 100% secure. It's doing better than it has in the past, but again, some missiles are going to get through. Whereas I think Iran itself has very little missile defense, and what Israel's been able to do is just take out major sites in Iran, which are of strategic value. Now, the major story is the extent to which Israel has infiltrated into Iran and has operatives at all levels of Iranian government and military. And many of the military commanders have already been killed. And I don't think Israel's yet started killing the mullahs, but I think that's going to be next. Certainly, I'm sure Israel's contemplating that. And Israel could take out Ayatollah Khomeini, and that would make a major impact on this war, maybe be what it takes to get the country to revolt against the mullahs. I'm going to have Chris comment on some of this here in a minute, but I recall in 2006, I wrote Atomic Iran. And Chris, if you'll show that on the screen, you can find the cover of Atomic Iran. But here we have a story about how Israeli spies and pilots crippled an Iranian counterstrike. So you've got the Israeli operatives all through the Iranian government and military and also their nuclear program. And so quietly, a lot of the nuclear advanced scientists in Iran are going to be killed. A lot of the infrastructure are going to be killed. And if you decapitate one whole level of the leadership of Iran, there's my book, Atomic Iran, which I thought always had a very great cover on it, which was a terrorist eyes, and in the pupils of the eyes, you can see nuclear explosions. Iran desperately has wanted to have a nuclear weapon to attack Iran. I wrote that book in 2006. It was my first major book after Unfit for Command, which was the Swiftboat book against John Kerry. The book did not do particularly well because the topic in 2006 wasn't on everybody's mind. I mean, you've got to realize that's now 19 years ago that I wrote that book. And I've been in Israel countless times, many times, since I wrote that book and before. But the point is that I had discussions with Uri Lubrani, who was one of the top Iranian defense ministries, Iranian experts. He had been born in Iran. He spoke Farsi, and we discussed in 2006 his infiltration of the Iranian military forces, their nuclear forces, their government at all levels. And for a couple of reasons. One, intelligence, to find out just exactly where Iran was and how close they were to making a bomb, because we all realized that as Iran got closer to doing that, unless the world could stop Iran, well, there would come a day like is here today, namely a war would occur. But we also discussed with Erdogan, and I was encouraging him to say, look, if you can infiltrate these units, you can subvert them. So if there is a war, you can have an internal influence which decapitates the leadership. I mean, literally kills the leadership, and also causes all kinds of havoc. So that's a weapon that Israel has developed, which I think is playing out very successfully in the current war. And I wouldn't be surprised to see more people killed at a top level by these actions, because Israel knows where the Ayatollahs live. And I think they've already sent some of the missiles in to kill them, and will continue to do so. Now, Chris, come on. I want to come on for a minute, Chris. I want to ask a couple questions that have been on my mind. Let's get a discussion about them. Number one is, how long is this war going to last? Now, I think it could be a protracted war. I don't think it's going to go easily. I think Israel may actually have to invade Iran in order to get some of these deep nuclear missile sites underground that are concrete reinforced to get them destroyed. So if it's going to involve an invasion, we do have a long and more difficult war. Chris, your thoughts?
I'll think about this. How do we know other nations or organizations aren't going to jump in on this war as well? That's another issue. Israel's been in a fight with a lot of the Islamic nations for a long time, since its existence. And perhaps this time you could see other forces thinking, well, let's see, Israel just ran over Gaza. Now they're fighting Iran. This is a nice weak time to attack them on another front.
Well, the thing I'm thinking is that Israel has done a great job already of decapitating. For instance, Hamas is destroyed in Gaza for now. Hamas will want to return. They'll want to return the Palestinians. And over the weekend, I saw that there's a story on Discord about this that caught my attention. And I was following it over the weekend, that there were leftist protesters who were trying to do a global march to Gaza. I'll give you the link to the story here in the chat, Chris, so you can post it. But it was I just posted it there in the chat. The story is that there was a march going to the Palestinians were trying to get into Gaza in order to protest. Okay, so this whole group of these subversive bureaucratic institutions like USAID, which funds these protests and funds the Palestinians and funds the chaos around the world. So thousands of activists from Western countries were in Egypt, very little reported on, but for a global march to Gaza, which was a movement, quote, aimed to break the Israeli blockade that they argue has pushed the region to the brink of famine. And so we had some 4,000 protesters from 80 countries who joined the protest. That's what the organizers say. And they landed in Cairo, took buses to the city of Arish in northern Sinai, then marched around 30 miles through the desert peninsula to the Egyptian site of Gaza at Rafah. And organizers said the activists would sleep in tents along the route and expected to arrive on the border on Friday. But when they got there, they found that the the Egyptians were there to push them back, and were there to make sure that, I guess this is a story that originates in InfoWars. InfoWars was covering it when no one else was covering it. And when they got to the border here with Egypt and Gaza, the protesters were met by Egyptian authorities and not allowed to enter into the Gaza. So there were at least 200 Palestinian activists who were arrested in Cairo on Thursday. More were reported being held. The detainers were from Australia, France, Morocco, Netherlands, Spain, and the United States. And footage showed the Democrats, you call them all Democrats. Of course, these are all anybody who's for chaos on the left is a Democrat. And there's a video posted here on X I wouldn't mind showing a bit of. I'll put it here in the here we go. It's in the chat. You can pick up that video on X. I think I'd like to play that video because it demonstrates, in fact, how how you see these Egyptians authorities fighting the protesters. So let's play this video because you can see again how the Egyptians don't want the Palestinians back in Palestine or back in Gaza. I'm sorry. So you have what the video shows is kind of chaos. You see the authorities who are pounding these protesters who are doing like a sit-in. They're sitting down and demanding they be arrested. And so the authorities are trying to grab them. They're beating them it's just a chaotic scene. But the point is that the Egyptians find, and so do the Middle Eastern countries in general, find the Palestinians to be a particularly difficult group of people because they're revolutionaries and they've been conditioned to cause trouble in every country they've been in. Chris?
Again, this is we're not talking about just recent history. We're talking about centuries of this happening. The Palestinians have been kicked out of almost everywhere historically for various reasons. But now, yes, I can see the idea that they don't want to invite unrest.
Yeah, no, if the Palestinians get back into Gaza, Hamas will follow shortly behind. But what Israel's doing right now is trying to destroy Hamas in Gaza, destroy Hezbollah in Lebanon, destroy the Houthis in Yemen, and then take out Iran. And we started bombing the oil fields over the weekend in Iran, which is going to push spiked the price of oil over the weekend, which is going to be bad news for Europe going into the winter. Chris?
Exactly. And you think about it this way. They also don't want mass immigration of Palestinians coming into the countries as well.
Absolutely not.
And there will be culture clashes, and they also understand that too.
Well, where to put the Palestinians is going to become a question once these wars settle down. But right at the moment, we still have the wars going in there. But I think they're rapidly approaching entering kind of a late stage of these wars because I don't think that Iran is going to have endless missiles to launch, and Iran has no other strategy. If we could just get internal unrest going in Iran so that the people would be back in the streets, we might be able to topple this evil regime, and I'm sure that's one of Israel's aims. So let's move on from this, Chris. Let's cover the story about Minneapolis. So Minneapolis, let's tell the story about this. Minneapolis, I guess this, why don't you, there was one of the Minnesota legislators, this woman, there was a vote in the legislature whether or not to allow medical aid to illegals. And this woman was pivotal as a Democrat in voting to end the illegal aid for immigrants in the state of Minnesota. And of course, that upset all the radicals in the state who want to protect the illegal immigrants in Minnesota. Minnesota has been a radical leftist state, a lot of Islam, a lot of Muslims in Minnesota. And so this was a very unpopular move on her part. Chris, I think you have a video of her, this is before her death, where she is obviously upset at having to make this vote in the legislature. Let's play. I'd like people to see how concerned she was before she was hunted down and killed.
Yes, watch her closely because she's visibly upset and terrified at the same time. Maybe emotional as far as disagreeing with the bill possibly, but at this point, she seems like she's terrified that something is about to happen because the provision to allow illegal immigrants to have health care or taxpayer-sponsored health care, if you will, free health care.
She's a representative. Her name is Melissa Hortman.
All right, and they did not go through.
And what that measure was, they defeated them. I mean, Minnesota voted not to do medical aid for the illegals. I
Correct.
mean,
And
that's
she voted for that too. She
she
voted
voted for that.
right. She voted for that for not having that provision for the final draft of the budget in that respect.
Okay,
But
and she's
here she is.
former House Speaker in Minnesota. Let's listen to her.
We worked very hard to try to get a budget deal
She looks like she's about ready to cry.
that wouldn't include that provision. I know that people will be hurt by that vote, and we worked very hard to try to get a budget deal that wouldn't include that provision.
She's
Okay,
looking around too.
Yeah, I mean, she's obviously knows that there's going to be retaliation, and she's concerned and emotionally upset that she had to vote this way. But again, the movement to support and protect these illegals is coming to an end with Donald Trump in the White House. Now, Donald Trump is making it clear that he wants to get the criminal illegals. That's his target, and that's his main target right now. But again, what this prompted was this guy coming out and killing her. Now, he's a nutcase. And what do you know about him, Chris?
Not a heck of a lot. We don't know a heck of a lot.
We don't know a lot.
What we do know is this guy is a. I'll give you a little bit about him. I'm going to read up on that. I'm going to read up what I have right here. The idea is this guy is a former Walls employee, a former Walls appointee, or Walls appointee. He was also appointed by a past governor to some kind of citizen's position. He let's see, here we have his name is, I'll get that name, Vance Bolton. He's at large. His
Yeah, and they're trying to say that he
Jenny isn't he? Where yes,
they're trying to say that he was a InfoWars follower and that he didn't like Waltz and he didn't like Biden. They're doing everything they can to make him sound like he's a MAGA.
Yet he his car had a manifesto which has not been released. Interestingly enough, by now, lots of names on it. Supposedly a lot of Democrats, but there was also no King's paraphernalia, referring to the protests from the weekends.
Yeah, I mean, this guy he's not MAGA. He was upset because the illegals were not going to be able to get medical aid. He's clearly, but the left is trying to spin it. And if we take a look at his roommate, I mean, he had a roommate who was, obese, doesn't look like he's particularly, orderly guy. I mean, what's his roommate deal all about? Another male, his wife and family were not very far away, but he tended to rent apartments, and the guy's very much of a loner. But the family was also picked up in a car, and they had weapons and cash, and the wife had passports, multiple passports. So, I mean, this is, again, a developing story, but it shows the nutcase nature of the wacko Democrats.
Well, the big red flag is they're not releasing the manifesto. And remember how long it took for that trans shooter manifesto when who shot the Christian school?
Yeah, they
get
don't want to release anything that makes the Democratic Party look like what it is, which
Right.
is it became communist. Now it's incredibly insurrectionist. It's anti-American. It's a treasonous party, wants to destroy America and everything the Democrats support today. I mean, the Democrats are the party of illegal criminal aliens. They're the party of MS-13 gangs and being protected from being deported. They're the nutcase judges that want to go after Trump for things that they can't prove in court or won't stick in court. And there's increasing evidence that U.S. aid has been used to funnel government money to George Soros. And I have a big story developing, which is that Act Blue is also funneling money from the border, drugs and fentanyl and child sex labor into Democratic coffers and Democratic NGOs who then supported Antifa and the like. And I've been reporting on this and saying that this information is now being handed over to the Justice Department. And I think Act Blue is going to be exposed as a major criminal enterprise funding Democrat radicalism. Okay, so this is the Democrats are being exposed here. as a party that I think is going to become rapidly disappearing. I mean, who's going to really support these people if what they're for is, you know, child sex trade and supporting illegal immigrants who are criminals and all the other things the Democrats seem to be in love with? Chris?
Exactly. The funny thing is, and again, I'm just going back to this whole idea that the manifesto was not released. If this had been a right winger, a MAGA guy, that manifesto would have been out there, or at least clips of
Right away. We've seen
it
clips of it right away.
would have been sent to the media a while ago. Right.
Okay, and I want to cover.
Exactly.
Let's move over to the Ukrainian war and Russia. And I think now Zelensky is understanding that he's not going to be very supported by Trump for very much longer at all. So the story on Zero Hedge, it's authored by a Substack from Andrew Korybyko, Korbybko, Substack. And Zelensky evidently had over 24 paragraphs in a tweet storm on Saturday afternoon. And it's available to be read in full from that article on Zero Hedge. But what he was saying is that on sanctions, putting 500, we want 500% tariffs on Russian energy clients, which will likely be applied towards China and India. Okay, if that passes with waivers for EU countries, and what he wants to do is to punish Russia with massive sanctions on its oil. Well, that's just not going to happen. He's upset about the warm tone of U.S.-Russia dialogue, how Putin and Trump seem to be able to talk to each other. And again, they did over the weekend. But he's mostly concerned about reduced U.S. aid. The Secretary of Defense recently announced that cuts in the next budget are going to occur, but he wouldn't detail exactly what these cuts are going to be. Now, it seems to me that what we're seeing, what we're going to continue to see, is that Trump has just had it with the Russian-Ukraine war. And the best way to stop it is to quit funding it. If we quit funding it, the war will end. It's pretty simple. Okay, so also Russia is making great strides in moving to take more territory. These two provinces to the east, which Russia dominates. And also Russia is protecting more the citizens of these two provinces from attacks by Zelensky and the neo-Nazi brigades that Zelensky launched against these two Russian-speaking provinces. And Russia's been bombing Kiev. So Russia wants to take Kiev, it can. Zelensky's panic over the weekend indicates that he's beginning to realize that the Europeans talk a lot, but they don't have the money or the wherewithal to support him. So therefore, he's depending upon the bankrupt Europe in order to bail him out. Okay, now that's just not going to happen very quickly. And as Zelensky realizes that he's alone in this war and is going to lose, well, you're going to face a situation where Zelensky collapses or is himself eliminated. I'd say Zelensky and Ayatollah Khamenei are two of the more vulnerable people in the world right now. And neither one of them is particularly safe. I think they both realize it. Chris, what do you think? I mean, I think that these two wars are likely to go on for a while, but I think the end games are not that Iran and Ukraine win. I think they both lose. Chris?
Look, Ukraine was already on the way to losing, and Iran is going to find out it's going to be able to hold its own for maybe 6 months to a year, if anything, until their reserves and their supplies start getting depleted. Where Israel is going to be subsidized in many ways by the U.S. Ukraine, of course, is not. That was a lost war from, I suppose, a year and a half in. It was extended by Western Europe and us. As far as the sanctions, Zelensky's not totally wrong on those. The fact is, Western Europe could have taken care of this a long time ago by saying, all right, that's it. You don't end the war. We are going to We're going to just stop buying oil from you, and that's it. We'll buy oil from America. Of course, America stopped producing as much as they did as soon as Biden took office, and they couldn't do that. So the Biden administration and the Western European governments are just as responsible for the escalation of the Ukraine war as perhaps Zelensky is, and they're propping up this guy. They're like those kids in the playground who tell the kid that they want to see beaten up to go, hey, yeah, you can take him. Yeah, go back and take him a little more. Yeah, exactly. It's a lot like that.
Yeah, it's a lot like that. And I think the world is getting tired of both of these wars and tired of Iran talking constantly about nuking. A bunch of psychopaths wanting to nuke Israel to kill the Jews. I think the world's going to have to realize a couple things. One is that Russia's here to stay, and protecting these Russian-speaking Ukrainians who want to have their own independent governments, part of the Russian Federation or tied to the Russian Federation. That's going to happen. It's not going to, and Russia's not going to give up the territory it has in Ukraine. These are facts. And secondly, Israel's going to win in the battle with Iran. And that's a fact. Now, the last fact in all of this, there's two things that I'm seeing. Number one is that we're just at the very beginning of the Trump administration rooting out the evil that has been the Democratic Party since Bill Clinton. Since the Clintons, compounded by Obama, compounded by Biden, and a host of other characters, Kamala Harris and Newsom, all these other anti-American forces, raising billions of dollars to defeat and destroy America in a plan that goes back to the 1950s to break up our nuclear families and to make transgenderism the dominant theory of the public schools. Having children paint rainbow flags for homosexuals, lesbians, gays, transgendites, etc., in their kindergarten and first grade classes all the way through school. Public schools are becoming a transgender LGBT organization. And I think that's got to stop. But it's going to take a while for all these things to develop. And the Justice Department needs more lawyers. We need to get rid of all the legacy bureaucrats who are going to undermine the administration every time they get a chance. But this work is just starting. And we've got to get this budget bill passed, as effective as it is, so we have money to do these things which need to be done, including rooting out and deporting the criminal illegal aliens. Okay, now the economy, I want to stress, is not in good shape. We're going to see the destruction of the middle class, which was under Biden, was intentional. And now Trump is going to have to start thinking about eliminating the IRS. He's going to have to think about drastic measures. We're close to $37 trillion in national debt, and that's record high. It's a record high ratio to our GDP. We haven't been over GDP since, a ratio of more national debt than GDP, gross domestic product, since World War II. We had to finance defeating Hitler and Japan. So now I'm encouraging people, and I'm going to stress that gold today is holding at over $3,000 an ounce. It's $3,415 an ounce. And silver's up to $36.38 an ounce. Now, I've been talking about this since gold was $1,800 an ounce. And if you had listened to me then, you would nearly have doubled your value of your gold holdings. And please go to Swiss America. And on Swiss America, one of our sponsors, if you like the show, please work with our sponsors. Swiss America has an opportunity here for you to get a self-directed IRA. And I've written a book here on how the coming global crash, which is in the works, is going to cause an historic gold rush. And that's happening. I want you to participate in it. Gold is going to go to $6,000 an ounce. It may take it a little while to get there, but it's headed to $4,000 real quick. Okay, so this book you can get a copy of by talking to Swiss America, 1-800-519-6268. I'm going to repeat that, 1-800-519-6268. Write it down. 1-800-519-6268. It's consultative selling. They're not going to arm twist. They're going to explain to you how buying gold and silver works, how you can get a depository account in Delaware where you can hold your gold and silver, and a Lloyd's of London insurance policy that says the gold and silver is really there. Now, if you begin to do this and move in this direction, you'll at least have some assets in your IRAs and 401ks that are going to increase in value instead of your stock holdings, which are going to be extremely vulnerable. And if you hold mutual funds, most likely in your IRAs and 401ks, most likely you've got exposure to stock market volatility. Okay, so what we're seeing in all of these things develop is that the Trump administration is going to devote every possible resource to expanding the ICE raids in cities now like Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York. Probably includes Seattle, Portland, Oregon to the list. The Trump is probably going to stay out of the war with Iran, between Iran and Israel, although Trump will give all the economic support to Israel. Trump sees the strategic value of Israel remaining a free state, and he also sees the value of it remaining a Jewish state, given the persecutions of the Jews, which has got to stop. We cannot have this Jew hatred take us into another 20 or 30 years. Otherwise, we'll end up inevitably having nuclear war. Middle East has got to embrace the Abraham Accords. We've got to have peace through prosperity. And I think that's Donald Trump's themes. Also, by the way, Huma Abedin, who is the paramour of Hillary Clinton, and was the one who was Hillary Clinton's aide that I caught publishing her Hillary Clinton's emails from her private email server, including classified emails, on Huma Abedin's personal Yahoo account, which could have been read by anybody whom she gave or sold her username and password. And that's a major breach of security for which Hillary and Huma were not prosecuted, again, with weaponization of the Justice Department. So what we're seeing now is a financial situation which is also going to crash. And I'm trying to prepare you for that so that before it does crash, you've got more safely into some gold and silver. Please call Swiss America and talk about it. We have a lot on our website about Swiss America, including free reports you can download. Okay, so just to wrap this up today, we're at a very tense moment in the world where we've got these conflicts that could at any moment go nuclear. But if we can reverse the State Department's policy of using NATO to be an antagonist to Russia, if we can get Tehran so it cannot develop nuclear weapons and have a regime change without the United States involvement, and with the United States saying to both of these wars, we're not going to fund Zelensky, we are going to fund Israel, and we're going to win in both of these situations, because if Putin wins, ironically, that's pushing back our State Department, which was determined to destroy the United States. And Rubio has not yet been able to successfully fire the 2,000 employees he wants to fire, and that's only the starting point. All the legacy employees of the bureaucracy need to go. They can't be trusted to be MAGA or Maha, make America healthy again, faithful. Yet I'm extremely optimistic, as I see now we're fighting a battle which needs to be fought and has been needed to be fought for a long time. In the end, God always wins, and God will win here too. So join me in the spirit of 2 Chronicles 7:14. Let's get down on our knees, ask God to forgive us for letting this world get to this much corruption, this much child sex trade, this much God taken out of our homes and our hearts and our schools, our public squares. We need to heal America by going back to traditional values and get rid of this communist nonsense, this Marxism, this Maoism, and return to sanity. Dr. Jerome Corsi, CorsiNation.com, doing podcasts every weekday. Today is Monday, June 16th, 2025. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back again tomorrow. God bless.